appreciate the invitation. We'll see how it goes. To fill in a little bit, I feel more like a tumbler in the Catskill resorts, just filling in with a little shtick in between the regularly scheduled activities. I've got a small marketing consultancy called Whiz Bang Powwow. My background, I come from traditional linear marketing, things printed on dead trees and broadcast over radio and TV waves and things like that. Moved into social marketing a few years ago, and that's what I do primarily. And my focus is to help companies integrate social media into their overall marketing scheme. So I was generously invited to attend today, and then I guess this is my payment for being able to attend. But I'm sitting here listening to things from the perspective of my clients, and also I joke that, well, it's not really a joke, that to support my sleep optional lifestyle, I blog about social media marketing and advertising and analytics and related topics for Social Times, and the people who I like to think read my blogs on Social Times are brand marketers and agencies that are providing services, whether they're advertising or marketing agencies, to those brands. So during the last break, I banged out a list of 12 snarky comments that I hope are related. I hope they're snarky enough for you. And these are some of the things that I think have been said in other ways, but are worth repeating, worth emphasizing from the perspective of all those people who are trying to implement social media in the context and using it intelligently and using things like data to get it right. But one of the big problems it continues to be, and I think it's been said earlier in the day, that at most companies, social media is apart from, as opposed to a part of, brands' overall business strategies. I think the whole notion of silo cuts across. If I go to one more conference that's primarily for advertising agencies, and the third sentence, the third slide is, we have to break down the silos. I'm going to scream, but it's true. It's both at the agency level, it's within the brands. We see it a little bit in the industry here. Seth mentioned it in his presentation. So this whole notion of getting everybody to work together and having social media really being a part of the company culture is difficult, if not scary, because it's not just a functional change in the company, it's a cultural change in the company. And how many companies have any of you worked in which a cultural shift was easy? Next is the whole notion, I think, and I don't want this to sound totally negative. I'm pointing out a few issues that we need to resolve. We're all adults here. We can solve them. It's not personal. It's business. But that there are folks who are saying, this is what we can measure. Therefore, this is the measurement of success. So there are a lot of companies out there that are saying, we're doing great in social media, or we really stink at social media, because they're basing it on the ruler that's given them by which to measure it, instead of starting with, this is our strategy, here's what we want to achieve in terms of our brand image, in terms of I've got a list. I could throw this slide up, but it's on my computer, so I can't. It's like 26 different ways to measure social media ROI. Rather than starting with even one of them, the companies are just being told and sold, this is how you measure success. Fine, we're doing great. I also think that brands, and this is for big brands, they're going from this notion where, you take a sample and you kind of, from that, you extrapolate what sentiment is, what people like and what people don't like, and that's how you buy your advertising, that's how you do your marketing scheme. I don't know, I come, 2 industries ago I was in radio and TV broadcasting. I never ceased to be amazed how small the samples were that companies spend gajillions of dollars on advertising. So we're going from that model. Now there's this model where people are being flooded with this ton of data and trying to find ways to make heads or tails of it. And there are folks who, and a lot of the brands out there have this really strange reaction. which is, well, if for social media, if I don't have it all, it's no good. And these are the same folks who were judging on small samples and surveys and panel data in the past. And they're pushing back because for social media, they don't have it all because maybe somebody told them, well, with social media, you can have it all. I think there's too many social media, we've given, and I have to plead guilty to doing it sometimes, the impression that it's all there, it's all out there for the picking. Well, it's not, and we've learned that a little bit. Those of you in this room yesterday got some other perspectives on that. New data presents a whole different set of opportunities for small businesses. Small businesses, for the most part, were not using data. You know, the local hardware store was looking at the till and trying to find things out. But now, social media, and again, maybe rightly or wrongly, those of us in the social media business are giving people the impression that there's a lot more do-it-yourself stuff in social media. And some of it is data. Now, some of it's really juicy and useful. For example, Foursquare, you know, will knock on your door, and if you've got a coffee shop, they'll tell you, you know, we can tell you what the peak hours are at the movie theater or the playhouse or what have you. You can get information about what's going on in your neighborhood in terms of clients and prospects. And that's a wonderful thing. That's really good. For the local business, for the small businesses who haven't been really taking good advantage of data in the past, there's a wealth of it, but it's not what the larger businesses, they're not looking at it at a macro level, which is often what we're offering. They're looking at things at a micro level. And I'll leave it at that. I'm just saying this differently from what you've heard before, but there is a really big struggle to extract intent from sentiment, and I think there's a lot of confusion. You know, thumbs up means I'm going to buy something. I don't think so. There's also a struggle to define influence and influencers, and I think we've all heard it, although it's irresistible. This person has 1 million fans on Facebook and 75 gajillion followers on Twitter, therefore this person is influential. But what is being called influential and what is being perceived as influential by a lot of brands is the good old-fashioned endorser model. It's not that Milton Berle really had this deep, intimate knowledge that Texaco gasoline was that much better than any other gasoline, but he was a celebrity. And when he got up on his show way back when, and that's how it's been done for years. So I think a lot of brands are still confusing celebrity endorsement with influence and buying that, where influence is something that really needs to be analyzed on a industry by industry and maybe even a brand by brand, or even more granular than that, a product by product basis, rather than just saying this person in general is influential. How many, you know, this is great and this is true. We now do really can hear and solicit the voice of the consumer better than before. Okay, by a show of hands, how many people can name a brand that has lasted a significant amount of time that has never responded properly to the voice of the consumer? Okay. It's something we've always done. That's not new. This is not like a big revelation. It's like all of a sudden we're going to be able to use the tools we have to do it. The information we have to use are spectacular compared to how they were before, but it's not a new concept. Post hoc propter hoc. It's the only 4 words of Latin that I know. It's got me. Okay, define. Translate? Right. We were that came up earlier in the day also and comes up frequently. Just because something happens after something else doesn't mean the first event was causal. They could be coincidental or coincidental, but you cannot create a causal relationship just because one happened first, and we tend to do that a whole lot in social media. F-commerce. you know, Facebook is the great new storefront of the world. And I think too many brands, though, are locked into their big decision is, and the thinking outside the F box I stole from Augie, who used to be with Forrester, but isn't anymore. Thinking outside the F box, but this is their big decision: Facebook or not Facebook. Which is the way we go? Where's our future? Facebook or not Facebook? It's a lot bigger than that. Most users, and the definition of the tools that are using change depending upon the marketing hype. I mean the product information, spec sheet of the product, but actually there's attempts to sort out the tools, the commercially available tools or services, listening, monitoring, analytics. Most of them swear by them, because they can take them to the boss and they can say, this is what the analytics tell us, and if it doesn't work, they can fire the software, just like the traditional advertising and marketing model, where if the ad campaign didn't work, you fire the agency. And okay, so so they swear by them. Conversely, they swear at them. For the most part, there's a high level of dissatisfaction with the tools that are commercially available out there or the services that are being offered, with the really, really large brands using multiple tools and in a constant search for a better solution. So, you know, opportunity for some companies out there. Finally, last, again, random, not any order, that a lot of companies have this tremendous fear that they're going to lose control of their brand on social media. Well, you know, they're right. They are going to lose control. Partial, complete, get over it. It's the way it's going to be. There's no way around it. You can't avoid social media. Get wet. You know, you might drown. But, it's better than getting pushed into the pool and drown. Or companies are totally overreacting to negatives, and which was why I asked the question earlier of the TripAdvisor guys, and why I found it so interesting when picked up yesterday how overwhelmingly positive most of the tweets are from the 2% of the people on Twitter who are active, how overwhelmingly positive most of the comments are, because I think that brands in particular, and maybe even people, focus on the negatives much more than they are on the positives. And maybe that's not how to base your day-to-day activity. There's this big move to, well, social media is where I'm going to be doing my customer service and damage control. Maybe if you're doing a lot of damage control because of tweets, you've got a much deeper problem than what's on Twitter, because all these things were being said at the Blarney Stone or at a kitchen table or something before. They're not new problems because of social media. Social media is making them more visible. So because you've got instant response to Twitter, don't brag. Brag if you don't have any negative tweets. That's it. Thanks. Questions, comments? Yeah.
Hold on.
All right.
So how close are we in this industry of sentiment analysis to reporting on false positive and false negative on the polarities and other noise and accuracy factors?
There are some people in this room who are a lot more knowledgeable than I am about that. I'm several standard deviations of the norm below them.
Are you throwing it out then?
No.
Okay.
No, however, I think that because, for all the stuff that I said, with what is available to us now, both in terms of anecdotal information and in terms of information that can truly be analyzed and put into useful metrics, that there's enough of it so that the false negatives and the false positives can be dealt with just as they were dealt with when we didn't have social media, and the other stuff still has tremendous value. I mean, we can find a way to work with them just as we've always worked with them. They've always been there. It's just they haven't been as visible. And so exactly how to do that, I'm going to leave it to smarter people. I have some notions, but then I'd really embarrass myself if I answered your question. Yeah.
No, we can't have it.
So I thought, Neil, it was interesting your comment on celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
I was out in San Francisco a month ago, and Guy Kawasaki was speaking on, Twitter as simply a marketing channel. Do you think it's anything more than a disruptive element and a new creation of celebrity? And if we are going to embrace it as simply personal marketing channels, how does that affect how we should analyze it?
Is Guy here? The thing about, just to put it in my context, I'll tweet it out. All Guy has really done in a long time is push his personal brand and use how he's pushed his personal brand as an example of how others should push their personal brand. But not everyone, like Guy Kawasaki or other Twitter celebrities, have some celebrity outside of Twitter, to go on. Now, you've got tons of YouTube stars, Justine, the crazy guitar guy, go on and on and on. And there are some people who have created their personalities on Twitter. I think it's part of the cultural shift. I think Twitter was reflecting the cultural shift of personality being growing, becoming transmedia, television, newspaper, tabloid checkout newspapers, Twitter, all of those things. You've got to take it seriously. You've got to consider it. And even if it is just what it is, it's still only one element of social media. And in some ways, it's not really that social because so many people are just passive listeners. And so much stuff that's happening is just what I call reheat. It's just taken and passed along without even being read. That it's influential in that way, but there are going to be other more powerful ways coming to deliver messages. It's part of the whole thing. Thanks. There's my contact information.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
I'm curious what you think Facebook is going to look like in 2 years.
I've consulted my oracle, and I think that Facebook will, it's my prediction that in spite of the fact that they are vehemently denying it, that Facebook will have an advertising network to compete with Google's, and that the things like Facebook Connect and Open Graph and such are their way of avoiding the AOL mistake. Facebook is just like the original AOL. It's really self-contained platform. Remember why everyone said AOL failed? Because in the open internet, no one's going to want a closed platform. Well, right now the most popular place for people to go is a totally closed platform. But they understand, but if they stay in a closed platform, they're going to be self-limiting the amount of advertising dollars they can make. So the only way to really make the money that will match their valuation and exceed it is with an advertising network. That's my prediction.
Could you elaborate, please, on that? So Facebook has a huge asset in terms of the information that they collect, both on the behaviors of the individual who participate on Facebook, all 600 and whatever million of them, and the content that people post and repost and so on. So the advertising network would be outward facing for anything online, not just on the Facebook platform, correct? And so they'd be essentially monetizing the data assets they have that include profiles linked to behaviors and content.
I'll sort of both contradict you and amplify you.
That's
what
what
you
I'm
said
asking
in
you
a
to
second is my perspective, and I'm just one guy. Facebook's single most valuable asset is the data they have on the people who are members. That's what they've got. And for advertisers, the holy grail is to, whether it's achievable or not, I don't know, is I want to sell my product to exactly the person who's shopping for it. I want to sell it to them today, to the person that's looking for it today. And of all of the personal databases, Facebook comes the closest, and it's really interesting for all of the complaints about Facebook collecting too much data and Facebook collecting too much data. I think the lack of hesitancy, I'll change that, the willingness for people to hit that Facebook Connect button, which is basically, a data dump to Facebook, that you've been to the site, these are now your interests, and here's what you're doing, is huge. And I don't use Facebook Connect.
So,
But, they'll still find a way to target me, I'm sure, but.
so if I can add to that for your reaction, it's like I have this thing that has GPS enabled, but I'm not on Facebook all the time. But some combination of Google and Verizon would know where I am. If you had an iPhone or a BlackBerry, it would be some other provider. And Facebook doesn't possess that information. So does that also point to Facebook opening up via alliances with people who have organizations that have complementary information to theirs to create something larger?
Preface, I don't think Facebook is like evil and bad and horrible, and I think they are, just because a company is successful at doing what they're doing, doesn't make them bad just because they're convincing. They're not. I don't think they're coercing, but convincing us to give up a lot of our personal information makes them evil in any way. Next 2 years from now, maybe I'd answer it differently. But yes, well, look at the Facebook Places, which I think that the failure of Facebook to have easy to use, robust, full-featured mobile apps, and that other companies' location-based services are ahead of Facebook Places and Facebook Deals is one of the areas where they're weak, but they certainly can put a lot of resources in it. I give up all kinds of information to Foursquare every day willingly. They don't even have to track me. I just give it. All I get is those stinking badges, and I'm fine with that. But yeah, they'll find a way. Will it be an alliance? Sure. I mean, those alliances are going to have to take place in order for am I talking too long? Okay. Not that talking too long is a bad habit of mine, but it is. But it's going to be need for mobile payment processing. Everybody along the line. I mean, if you're going to make if I'm going to buy something on my iPhone, then I'm going to have the cooperation of AT&T, of Apple, and 2 banks. So just as Facebook is looking to put itself into that transaction, is putting itself into the transaction on the web, their virtual money scheme is very likely to come into play in mobile transactions to give them even more data. And the thing about the Facebook data, since it's the most valuable thing they have, it's probably going to be the last thing everyone in this room is going to have access to, except on our owned media. If you have a Facebook page, you're going to get some, but not all of the information. But the one thing that's probably going to be least searchable in the long run is what Facebook is collecting. Again, my prediction. Invite me back, and I'll then happy to be proven wrong. Happy to be proven right. Okay, thank you. That's me. I am going to write a couple of blogs about the data analysis, sentiment analysis, text analysis topics that are coming up today. If you've got something you want to contribute, got an idea, got a case study, got a company that's doing something cool, let me know. Okay? Happy to tell your story. Thanks.